Hey everyone, so let's get started. This is what we are looking at completing today. So we're going to create the basic UI that drives the app. We're going to import all the assets as well and create an extension which is going to help us manage our color scheme throughout the application. So as you can see on the right hand side, that's the completed app, as you've probably seen this before. So as you can see, it's driven by two tabs, so we're going to create them today in a tab bar controller. This is all going to be done in code as well, so there's no storyboards. Everything you see in the app is made up of collection views, tab bar views, tab bar controllers, and just normal collection views. So as you can see there, that's the transition. We've got a search bar as well. So we're going to do all this in code. So yeah, that's what we're going to look to complete. So let's create a new project. As I say, there's no starter projects, so this is going to be a single view application, and you can call this whatever you like. So I'm going to call this Cryptolite version 1 app. I'm just going to create a folder and just put it in there, and create a folder. Here we go. I mean, you can save this whatever's easiest, for yourselves. So there we go. So this is a new project. Right out of the box you get a view controller, which we're actually not going to use. We're going to create our own, but that's what you get out of the box. So when creating apps in code, we need to be starting our project over in App Delegate. But before I do that, I'm just going to run the project. I always like to do a build just to make sure that the project is kind of loaded correctly and there's no errors from the beginning. So the first thing we need to do is open up App Delegate. Now App Delegate is where the app first initializes, so all the central data structures will begin here, and you can also use this App Delegate to manage state of the app. So what we need to do, we need to come inside did finish launching with options, and we're going to create a root view controller. So this is where the app's going to load from. So at the moment we'll just use a standard UI view controller. Now we need to access the window property, and we need to make it visible. So let's do that. So window equals UI window.makeKey visible, and then we just need to set the root view controller. So window.root view controller, and then point that at the controller we've just created. So if we actually run that now, we'll see just nothing exciting. Out of the box you get a black background. That's the default color. So as an example, let's come over to the out of the box controller and do a test by adding a yellow background, and then just pointing the root view controller at this controller, so we can actually see our yellow background. And it gave you a basic understanding of how you can manipulate these loading screens. As you can see, it's black because we haven't changed it over. So we just need to point that at the view controller that comes with the out of the box app. You run that now, we'll see a yellow background. Nothing exciting, but we're actually going to create our own view controller. We're not going to use this because we need a little bit more functionality. So let's create a new Swift file, and I'm going to call this main tab bar controller. That kind of makes sense for me. You can call it whatever you like, but yeah, it's going to be the main tab bar controller. We're going to use UI kit. Probably almost always we're going to import UI kit. Let's create a class, and we'll call that main tab bar controller, which is going to be a tab bar controller, obviously. And let's go ahead and just set the background color to say purple, and we'll head back over to App Delegate, and then we'll change the root view controller to point at this main tab bar controller, so you can see again how we're manipulating the loading process. So once that loads now, main tab bar controller, you'll see a tab bar controller with a purple background. So what we can start to do, we can start to add some functionality to this controller. And what I like to do this in functions. So I'm going to create a private function which is going to be a way of generating those two tabs that you see, news and prices. So it's all internal implementation, so I like to make it private unless I need to make it public. So in there, let's think about what we're going to need for the tab bar controller. We're going to need, so call it generate nav controller. We're going to need obviously a root view controller, which is where we're going to be loading from. We're going to need some kind of a title. So we'll make that a string, and we're going to need some kind of an image, which is the image you see on the tab bar controller, and we're actually going to return a view controller. So when we're clicking on those tabs, we're going to be returning a view controller. So let's see what we can do. We can say, first off, let's create a nav controller, which is going to enable us to click on the controllers. So a UI navigation controller, and then pass in the root view controller. Let's set the title to the title that we're passing in. And then also, obviously, we need to set the tab bar item itself. So the title is equal to the title. So when we're clicking on, and we'll see the title at the top of the app. Nav controller.tab bar items.image is equal to the image that we're passing in as well. And then simply we're just returning a nav controller. So you can see we've got an easy way of creating tab bar items, so let's use that. So let's create another function, and let's set up the tab bar itself. So within UI tab bar controller, out of the box you get a view controllers array. So let's come inside there, let's access the view controllers, just create a set of tab bar items by using our generate nav controller. So let's create a UI nav controller to start with a title of news, and another one as well, and let's call that prices. So as you can see, we've left the image blank for now. So what we're going to do, I've included the assets for a download for yourselves, so you should be able to download them locally and drag them into the assets folder within Xcode. So we should now have access to those images. So come inside image and just type image literal, and it's a little bit buggy. This is an Xcode Xcode feature, and then just choose the news icon and image literal and the prices icon as well. So we should be able to run that now, and we'll see what we have so far. So all we've done, we just created a function which is generating the tab bar items for us, and then we're just calling that function within the view controllers array. So we haven't actually got anything visible on the screen yet, because we need to come inside view did load, and we need to run that function which we've created, setup tab bar or set tab bar. So just come under purple there and just run that function. So when the view did load runs, it'll run that function which will generate our tab bar controllers for us. So there we go. We can see that on the screen now. And the icons are there, but they're a little bit big. And the reason for that is they're actually set to, I think it's 1x. So we need to just change them over to 2x. So depending on what app you're building, you can play around with that. But for our size, we're going to need 2x. So if we run that again, we'll see that they resize correctly. So that's good. It's a good start. So the next thing we need to do, we need to find a nice way of handling our color scheme. So I'm going to include an extension for you, which is basically just going to be a quick way of creating the RGB colors. When you create an RGB color, you need to include the default /255 and kind of an alpha color. This extension eliminates that typing. So it's just a way of us saying UI color.rgb and then just typing in the numbers that we need in order to create our color. So there we go, that's the extension. Go ahead and pause if you need to type that in. I've actually included that as a file as well, so you can include that. So let's see how this works. So before we do that, let's create another private function, and let's call this setup nav customization. And we're going to access the UI navigation bar appearance to set the large titles. I just think it looks a little bit better. And we're going to use the large title text attributes as well. It's kind of an old style Objective-C way of adding customization. So let's just create this function. Set up navigation bar customization, and then we just want to say UI navigation bar dot appearance dot prefers large titles. Again, this is the preference. We set that to true, and then we're going to say navigation controller dot navigation bar, and then dot large title text attributes, and then this is in dictionary format, so we need to access the NS attributed string. Again, this is the old school Objective-C way of adding some customization. So we need to set the key of the foreground color. So you can make this whatever you want because we're going to override it anyway. So we'll call this, we'll just set it to UI color.blue. So that's the first part. And then the second part of the dictionary is just NS attributed string dot key, and then you just need to set the font as well. And for now we're going to be importing our own fonts, but we'll use a system font, so a UI font, and then we'll name it one which is included in Xcode, which is system font, and then we'll set a size color. We'll also do something called nil coalescing, which is the double question mark, and that is basically saying if that font isn't available, go ahead and use this size or this font. Just something that I always like to do as well. It's good practice. So we've got that function now as well. And we can also set things like the tint color, which is where we're going to use our RGB extension. So let's run that setup navigation bar customization function. Just pop it above the setup tab bar function that we have. And as you can see there, we've got a nice large title. When we're clicking on the different tabs, we get news and prices. And so let's come back into the tab bar controller, and just below view controllers, so we'll set the background to white for now, that horrible purple color. Just under view controllers, let's use our extension so we can set the tint color. So we can say tab bar dot.tint color equal to UI color dot RGB, and this is where our extension comes in. So now we can just simply type in the colors that we need rather than /255, and also setting the alpha. It just saves a little bit of time. So this will give us a nice tab bar color as well, and we'll set this to is translucent equals to true, and we're also going to set the bar tint color. So there's a couple of things to remember. We're just going to make that clear because we want it to blend in with the background of the actual controller itself. So if we run that now, we should start to see, as you can see down below, we've got our nice green icons, and we've got the grey background, which is eventually going to be the same color as the view controller that you have there. So definitely making a great start to the app. As you can see how easy it is to build apps in code really quickly. And as I say, we've imported the extension there, which makes our color scheme really easy to handle. And we've created some nice functions, some nice private functions. We've imported the icons as well. So we're really on our way to building this app. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to post any questions. I will see you guys in the next video.